What's up, guys? Let's talk about the team rankings and walk through how I'm coming up with this because I need some help and I'm not sure, how best to do it. So I wanted to know if any of you guys had any ideas or thoughts on how to implement this the best way. So what I'm talking about is, as you can see here, the different bars on top that go through the different rankings for each team, right? So you have your offense, your defense, and your special teams, and then the overall is just all three of those divided by three, right? So you take offense, defense, special teams rankings, and you divide by three, and you get your overall. Okay. So really, what we're talking about is offense, defense, and special teams. So the way that I'm doing it right now is I'm looking at every player, and I'm actually taking their skill, their acceleration, their speed, and their strength. And I'm using those as the ratings to add them all up for the team. And then say if you're on offense, then if you're an offensive player, then you're going to add that to the offensive section. Defensive, add it to the defensive. And special teams, right now, I'm just taking the punter and kicker, right? I could also take the kick returner and punt returner, but I would, have to add that in. And what I'm getting, the results I'm getting right now are they're all like around 3 bars, okay? And that's not really indicative of what I want to do. So what I decided to do was something different, and I said, let me try this. So what I decided to do was to say, okay, let me get all of the rankings, and then let me add them all up like I did before, but instead of taking everything and just putting them like every team and adding them all up, what I did was I took everything, every section, and added it up, right? So if you're an offensive, you got a total of like whatever it would be to be all of your offensive players' skills added up. I took that and I said, give me the total. And then what I would do now in this method is what I did is I put it into a grid, basically a list, and I'm sorting it now. So the best teams with the best offenses are going to go first. So if I want to get all 5 of those bars filled up, what I did was I said, okay, the first 5 teams or whatever, 5 or 6 teams, I'm going to give you the number 5. The next 5 teams, I'm going to give you the number 4. And then I went all the way down 3, 2, 1. So you have more distribution, you have a better distribution, and you can see that now the offense, defense, and special teams, it's not so much what the players total make up. It's more of like a hierarchy to say, okay, if you're worse, even by 1 point, if you're worse than the team above you, then you may get a lower rank, right? So it's going to have all the teams, the 32 teams, and it's going to divide them by 6, okay? And it's going to give me, you're either going to get a 5, a 4, a 3, a 2, or 1, or a 0, right? Based on, where you fall in that list. Okay. So the best teams, this is the problem that I'm having with this, is that you can take all the teams and you can literally make them each different by 1 point. So 1 point, I'm talking about like one player going from a 85 to an 86. You're talking about one actual point for one player. If they're different by 1 point, then they're going to be put into an order, and that order is going to determine whether they get a rank 5, 4, 3, 2, or 1. I like this because it kind of gives you the order of the teams in terms of, where they stand, but I don't like it because it's also not very clear. And I'll show you what I mean. So like now you're going to see a lot more distribution, which is what I want. I want this thing to show the best teams from the worst teams. But I also, like you look at the Detroit Riders, for some reason, they're being shown as the worst team in the game. And if you look at their actual players, they're not really that much different. Okay. I mean, I've done a pretty good job of making sure that each one of my teams have like a team build. So some teams are really offensive, like passing heavy. Some are run heavy. Some are more balanced. Some are defensive heavy. So I definitely put the time in to put better ratings to give each team a personality and have certain strengths for each team. But the problem is, how do I depict that in here without making everybody look close to around the same, value? So what I did was this, but I also don't think that it's giving you the best indication of where they stand, or maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's okay. But if you look at a team like the Riders, like I said, they're only going to be at 1 all the way across. If you look at the Buffalo Steel team, they're in the same boat. They're going to look like a very average team, and they might be better than this, because I'm not really showing running game versus passing game. I'm also taking into account the entire team and not just the starting players, right? So like, you may have a very, very weak bench and a great starter, but your rankings are bad because your overall team drags you down. So what I did was I actually put a weight in here. I'm actually doing something with that right now where I say, you probably can't see this, but I'm actually taking your depth and I'm giving you less weight. Like I'm giving you less of a priority for your ranking. So if you're a starter, you're going to get more value. So I'm doing that. So if you're a starter, you are going to get more value. If you're the last bench player on the team for that position, then you're going to get the least amount of weight to add you up here. So it is kind of taking into account the depth. It's also taking into account that your skill is really your primary skill, your primary attribute. So I'm actually doubling that. So you're going to use that one twice. But I'm still getting very, like, these ratings are just, it's because of what I said. It's because they're being ordered. But in the previous screen I showed you, they're actually just doing it across the board. So you're taking every player, you're going through the formula I just showed you there, and you're taking the depths and the weights, and you're adding everybody up, and then you're dividing by the, the averages or whatever, and you're getting your final numbers. But everyone kind of looks the same. So I'm trying to find a solution to coming up with the best way to attack this. And another problem that I also see in the previous version, like the one I showed you before this, is that like special teams, because you're only talking about a kicker and a punter, and a lot of them are pretty good. I might need to tweak my ratings, but they're all kind of, they're not horrible. Nobody's really a horrible kicker or a horrible punter, and you only have one of each. You don't have a bench. You don't have a backup punter or backup kicker. So most of the teams have a very high special teams. So I'm thinking about going a little bit deeper into this to take into account, more of like, it's hard because if you're an offensive lineman or a fullback or a wide receiver, you're getting the same kind of value as any other player on the offensive side of the ball. So even though I have the depth and I have the weighting for the skill and everything, it's still not like if you're a QB, maybe you should get more of a bump. If you're a halfback, maybe you get more of a bump. So two things. So I don't want to spend a lot of time on this, number one, but I also want to make it to where it makes sense and it looks appropriate for, what I'm trying to accomplish. So let me know in the comments what you guys think. I could use your help. I could use some feedback, and I'm going to try to make some changes and do some things that I think would work. But if you have any ideas, let me know in the comments. All right, guys, I'll catch you next time. Peace.